1993 was a wild year for cartoons. Toy companies were trying to force entire franchises out of troll dolls and video games, and even old-school characters like Droopy were getting dragged back into the spotlight. Some of these shows had potential, some were bizarre experiments, and some were just plain doomed from the start. But they've all earned a place in cartoon history as fascinating flops and forgotten gems. So let's dive into the one-season wonders of 1993, where dinosaurs met Cadillacs, trolls became action heroes, and Saturday mornings got really weird. Number 10, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
A world where only the strong survive. A world of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
If you thought Saturday morning cartoons were just about goofy animals and slapstick gags, then Cadillacs and Dinosaurs probably made you do a double take. Premiering on CBS in 1993, this show was based on a cult comic series by Mark Schultz, a gritty post-apocalyptic adventure where mankind lives side by side with dinosaurs. The premise followed Jack Tenrek, a mechanic with a moral code, and his trusty Cadillac, as he fought off poachers, corrupt politicians, and anyone else threatening the fragile balance between humans and prehistoric wildlife.
So you just make that thing of yours work again, okay? You are taking me to the city and the sea.
That thing is a Cadillac.
Sounds pretty epic, right? Well, the problem was CBS tried to market it to kids, while the original comics were darker, more violent, and definitely more adult-oriented. On top of that, toy companies didn't quite know what to do with a toy line that mixed conservationist messages, car culture, and T-Rex battles. The result was just 13 episodes before extinction came calling. Still, for a brief moment in 1993, Saturday mornings were full of roaring dinos, classic cars, and one of the strangest eco-friendly messages ever wrapped in a cartoon.
Until next time, Tenrek.
Until next time, Sharkhorse.
Number 9, Family Dog. Family Dog is one of those cartoons that looks amazing on paper, but just doesn't work once it hits the screen. The series actually started as a one-off short on Amazing Stories back in 1987. Created by Brad Bird, produced by Tim Burton, and backed by Steven Spielberg. With names like that, how could it fail? Well, 1993 answered that question. CBS picked it up as a full-fledged series, giving us 10 episodes about the daily misadventures of a suburban pooch and his abusive family.
Mad dog!
Billy!
Mad dog! Mad dog! Kill the mad dog!
Billy!
The art style was quirky, the animation had that offbeat Burton-esque charm, but the pacing was slow, the jokes flat, and the whole thing felt stretched way too thin compared to the clever little short that inspired it. Audiences didn't bite, ratings tanked, critics panned it, and Family Dog became more of a trivia question than a TV staple. Still, it stands as one of the weirdest flops of the early 90s. Proof that even when you throw Hollywood heavyweights at a cartoon, there's no guarantee it'll land. Number 8, Marsupilami.
Marsupilami. Marsupilami come and fly and treat to tree. So coconutty we are. Go banana singing. Hooba! Hooba! Marsupilami.
If you were watching the Disney afternoon block in the early 90s, you might remember a very strange little creature with a long springy tail and a tendency to shout, "Hooba!" That was Marsupilami, a cartoon based on a Belgian comic character who was wildly popular in Europe, but pretty much unknown in the US. Each episode featured short segments starring the yellow-spotted jungle critter, along with side features like Sebastian the Crab and Snookums and Meat. In theory, it was a variety-style lineup to keep things fresh. In practice, it just felt like Disney was throwing cartoon spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick. The show never built the kind of fan base DuckTales or Chip and Dale had, and after 13 episodes, it quietly vanished. Disney was later sued for breach of contract and damages. In Europe, the character went back to being a comic book star, but in America, he's mostly remembered as that weird Disney thing with the long tail. that came and went in a flash. Number 7, the Bots Master.
I'm Ziv Zoolander, ZZ for short, you know I fight the corp, I'm the boss master. Listen up, you all, you're the boys brigade. When it's laser time, put on the 3D shade. Laser time, boys!
If you were a kid in 1993, chances are you saw at least one commercial hyping the Bots Master as the show you can watch in 3D. The gimmick was called Laser Time, which meant you were supposed to wear a pair of cheap red and blue glasses and watch certain scenes pop off the screen. In reality, it just gave a lot of kids a headache. The show itself followed Ziv ZZ Zoolander, a teenage genius who builds an army of friendly robots to battle an evil corporation bent on world domination. On paper, it looked like a mix of Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, perfect for the toy aisle. And to be fair, the robot designs were fun and colorful, with plenty of variety to sell as action figures. But despite having 40 episodes, all of them aired in a single season through syndication, which meant it felt more like a content dump than a real hit. Without strong network support or a lasting toy line, the Bots faded fast. Today, the Bots Master is remembered mostly for its wild theme song and that infamous laser time gimmick that was more of a headache than a revolution.
Laser time, boys!
Number 6, Stone Protectors.
Protectors, now you know. Stone protectors, our stones of power glow.
Remember troll dolls? Those little plastic figures with crazy neon hair that were everywhere in the early 90s. Well, someone looked at those and said, what if we made them into action heroes? Enter Stone Protectors. The story follows 5 guys in a rock band who come into contact with magical stones, transforming them into buff troll-haired warriors with gemstone powers. They even had their own mutant-style villains to battle, led by an evil empress named Zok. The show leaned heavily into cheesy one-liners, generic action, and a toy line that nobody really asked for. Audiences weren't buying into the idea of trolls as macho heroes. Only 13 episodes were produced, and while there were toys, video games, and even a VHS special, the franchise never took off. Today, Stone Protectors lives on mostly as a so-bad-it's-good curiosity. A perfect example of the 90s toy-to-cartoon pipeline at its weirdest. Number 5, Problem Child.
Problem child!
If you thought the live-action Problem Child movies were a little much, just imagine trying to stretch that chaos into a Saturday morning cartoon. In 1993, NBC did exactly that, giving the pint-sized menace Junior Healy his own animated series. The cartoon followed Junior and his dad as they moved to a new town, where Junior caused nonstop mayhem for teachers, neighbors, and pretty much anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. Each episode had some wacky setup, a science fair gone wrong, a school election disaster, with Junior turning everything upside down before learning a lesson. Well, kind of. Despite the movies having a cult following, the animated version never really connected. Critics called it noisy and mean-spirited, and parents weren't thrilled about the kids watching a show where the main character was basically rewarded for being a troublemaker. NBC pulled the plug after 26 episodes, and Problem Child joined the long list of movie-to-cartoon experiments that just didn't stick. Number 4, WildC.A.T.s. In the early 90s, comic books were exploding in popularity, and none were hotter than the flashy new superheroes coming out of Image Comics. Jim Lee's WildC.A.T.s was one of the flagship titles, so naturally CBS tried to turn it into the next X-Men with a Saturday morning cartoon. The show followed a secret team of alien-human hybrids, battling an evil alien race trying to conquer Earth. On paper, it had all the ingredients: colorful characters, big action set pieces, and the distinct Jim Lee art style. The problem was WildC.A.T.s didn't have the same mainstream appeal as Marvel's X-Men or DC's Batman. The backstory was convoluted, the characters weren't household names, and the writing often felt rushed. only 13 episodes were produced, and while the toy line and comic tie-ins gave it a push, it never gained traction. Still, WildC.A.T.s has its fans, especially comic readers who were riding the Image Comics boom of the time. For most viewers, though, it's just another example of how not every comic property was destined for Saturday morning glory. Number 3, SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron. By the early 90s, Hanna-Barbera wasn't exactly known for edgy action cartoons. But then came SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron, a darker, sharper, and surprisingly stylish show about two vigilante fighter pilots, T-Bone and Razor, defending the city of Megacat against giant robots, mutant monsters, and all sorts of over-the-top villains. The series had a slick anime-inspired look, fast-paced dogfights, and a heavy metal theme song that instantly set it apart from Hanna-Barbera's usual output. Fans loved it, especially older kids who thought it was way cooler than the typical Saturday morning fluff. So why did it get canceled? Ironically, it was too violent for some networks and parents groups, and Hanna-Barbera's new owner, Turner Broadcasting, wasn't thrilled about the cost of producing such an action-heavy show. After 2 short seasons of 23 episodes, the plug was pulled, even though it was Cartoon Network's highest-rated show at the time. SWAT Cats may have been short-lived, but it's lived on as a cult classic, with petitions and even crowdfunding campaigns trying to bring it back. For a lot of 90s kids, it was proof that cartoons could be just as exciting and stylish as anything in live action. Number 2, Double Dragon. When it came to adapting video games into cartoons, the 90s had some truly strange attempts, and Double Dragon might be one of the strangest. Based loosely on the hit beat-em-up arcade series, the show premiered in 1993 and followed brothers Billy and Jimmy Lee as they battled the Shadow Master and his army of goons. Instead of sticking with the simple street fighting premise of the games, the cartoon leaned hard into superhero territory. The brothers transformed with mystical dragon powers, complete with armor and energy swords, making it feel more like the Power Rangers meets He-Man than the gritty brawls fans were expecting. It ran for 26 episodes across 2 short seasons, but it never quite clicked. The animation was stiff, the writing cheesy, and it didn't help that the video game franchise itself was losing steam by the mid-90s. A toy line and some tie-in merch couldn't save it from being forgotten. Today, Double Dragon is mostly remembered as an odd footnote, one of many shows that proved turning a hit video game into a lasting cartoon was a lot harder than it looked. Number 1, Droopy, Master Detective.
When you need a help, be around. Droopy, the master detective. How?
Looking. Droopy, the master detective. How?
In 1993, Fox Kids tried to bring back some classic Tex Avery magic with Droopy, Master Detective. The idea was simple. Take the slow-talking, deadpan Droopy and drop him into a parody of film noir detective stories, with his son Dripple tagging along as comic relief. Each episode had Droopy solving outlandish mysteries, usually against his nemesis Mick Wolf, while his calm, monotone delivery undercut all the chaos around him. It also featured shorts with some other MGM cartoon characters like Screwball Squirrel, making it a sort of mini Tex Avery revival for a new generation. The problem was that kids in 1993 didn't have much nostalgia for Droopy, and the pacing felt old-fashioned compared to the louder, flashier cartoons of the era. After just 13 episodes, Droopy Master Detective quietly disappeared, remembered mostly by animation buffs as one of Hanna-Barbera's lesser revival attempts. Still, for fans of classic animation, it was a brief reminder of just how funny Droopy could be, even when stuck in a show that didn't last long. So which of these forgotten 93 cartoons do you actually remember watching? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the strangest corners of cartoon history, don't forget to like and subscribe, because even when they only lasted a season, these cartoons left behind memories you just can't flip past.